the hidden history of World War II, the gruesome experiments of Unit 731 that left an indelible mark on humanity. In the depths of occupied Manchuria, one of the most atrocious and hidden crimes of modern history was carried out. In the dark corners of World War II history, Unit 731, a secret division of the Imperial Japanese Army, conducted inhuman experiments that defy all understanding. Located in Pingfang, Manchuria, under the command of General Shiro Ishii, this unit was dedicated to the development of biological weapons through lethal experiments on thousands of live prisoners. In the cold and ruthless heart of these facilities, humanity was stripped of its compassion and replaced by a monstrous pursuit of knowledge through pain and death. The screams of the victims echoed through the dark corridors of the Pingfang complex as scientists turned torturers carried out experiments that violated all principles of ethics and morality. This narrative not only reveals the horrors perpetrated by Unit 731, but also exposes the cover-up and impunity that followed the end of the war. It is a grim reminder of humanity's capacity for cruelty. It is one of the most terrifying and unknown chapters of modern history, where science and barbarism met in a pact of death and suffering. Here we tell you more about what no one dares to publish. Subscribe to this channel, and we will continue telling you. The Laboratory of Death, officially known as the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kempeitai Military Police, Unit 731 became an epicenter of unspeakable horrors. Chinese, Russian, Korean, and other nationality prisoners were subjected to brutal experiments. In these facilities, respect for human life was completely eradicated. Prisoners were subjected to vivisections without anesthesia, where vital organs such as hearts, lungs, and livers were removed while the subjects remained conscious, enduring unimaginable pain. The scientists, with terrifying coldness, meticulously observed and recorded the effects of diseases like plague, cholera, and anthrax, which were deliberately inoculated into the prisoners. The denial of anesthesia was not an error. It was a calculated sadistic decision to observe in real time how these diseases ravaged the human body. For organ extraction, military surgeons with blood-stained coats and bloody hands began to cut. The skin was opened, layers of muscle were peeled back, and the internal organs were exposed to view. Hearts, lungs, livers, and other vital organs were removed one by one as life slowly faded from the victims' bodies. Heart-wrenching screams of the prisoners echoed through the laboratory halls, a constant echo of suffering, while the scientists wanted to see how these diseases devastated the internal organs, how the body resisted, and finally succumbed. Another goal was to study war wounds. Prisoners were subjected to amputations and simulated wounds to better understand how the human body reacted and died under combat conditions. These observations were used to improve the Imperial Japanese Army's treatment and attack strategies, regardless of the human cost. In another wing of the complex, bodies were submerged in ice-cold water until the skin turned gray and the body stiffened. Then, they were subjected to thawing to study the effects of hypothermia. Many never survived these experiments, leaving behind a legacy of horror frozen in time. In addition to medical experiments, Unit 731 focused on the creation of biological weapons. They developed bombs filled with fleas infected with bubonic plague, designed to be dropped on cities. The fleas quickly spread, infecting the human and animal populations, releasing a deadly plague that caused fever, pain, and ultimately, death. These biological weapons of mass destruction did not discriminate. Men, women, and children fell victim to these diseases, turning entire villages into silent cemeteries. The goal of the Imperial Japanese Army was to use these weapons to decimate entire populations without the need for direct combat. Biological warfare allowed for the sowing of terror and destruction in silence, achieving a devastating impact without a single shot being fired. In a matter of days, the symptoms of the plague began to manifest. Entire villages turned into silent graves, with corpses piled up in the streets, abandoned in their homes, and life extinguished as quickly as it was terrifying. The horrible reality of biological warfare. the creation and deployment of biological weapons by Unit 731 represent one of the most atrocious and terrifying acts in the history of warfare. The images of entire villages falling under the silent shadow of the plague, of entire families exterminated by an invisible disease, paint a horror picture that defies imagination. When Japan's defeat became imminent, those responsible for Unit 731 tried to erase all evidence of their crimes. The facilities were destroyed, documents burned, and prisoners executed to silence any testimony. However, many of the perpetrators never faced justice. General Shiro Ishii and other leaders of Unit 731 received immunity in exchange for sharing the data obtained with the United States, allowing their crimes to go unpunished. Despite the attempts to cover up, the horrors perpetrated by Unit 731 could not be completely hidden. Survivors' testimonies and subsequent investigations revealed one of the darkest chapters of modern history, where science was used as an instrument of death and suffering. Unit 731 serves as a grim reminder of what can happen when humanity is stripped of its morality in the name of science and war. The horrors perpetrated by this unit must be remembered and condemned so that similar atrocities are never repeated. In memory of the victims who suffered and died, this story must be kept alive as a warning of the dangers of dehumanizing other human beings. Remember to subscribe to learn more and tell us in the comments what other topics interest you. Hit the bell to stay informed.